Hello, everybody. My name is Marilyn Mangian, and I'm the Director of Recruitment and Strategic Initiatives for the College of Engineering in Indianapolis. And it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to our live webinar tonight. What we have planned for you is we are connecting you with the Office of Professional Practice, and you'll get to learn a little bit about all the work that they're doing to connect students and industry together and get students prepared so they're ready to be connected to industry. We'll get to that in just a minute, but I do kind of want to go over some of the logistics. You'll see that there is a chat. Some of your questions will be answered live. So put your questions in the chat. Some of them will be answered live. Some of them will be answered behind the scenes, mostly by our students. So you'll get, their insight from your questions. So with that, I am going to turn this over to Katrine Danielson, who is with the Office of Professional Practice. Katrine, do you want to introduce yourself and go from there? And then we will also introduce you after Katrine's talk to some of the other panelists who are students who have experienced internships and co-ops, that type of thing. Okay, Katrine, with that, do you want to take it over?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm glad you can join us. So my name is Katrine Danielson, and I'm with the Office of Professional Practice. I'm the Assistant Director for Co-op Programs and Student Development, and my office is located on the Indianapolis campus. Just a few footsteps from Maryland's office. We used to be colleagues in our recruitment mission, so I'm excited to be here today and kind of share a couple information on how students access our industry connections. And because of our location in Indianapolis and close proximity, there's lots to unpack tonight. So I'll have a presentation, and like Marilyn said, we'll turn it over to some of our students after that. They all work with me in my office, and two of them are TAs for our class that we'll kind of highlight in the presentation. So looking forward to some questions that you may have and being able to answer those tonight. I'll have a presentation, so I'll share my screen and hopefully that all works as planned. Right, I hope this works. Maybe Marilyn, a thumbs up. Does it look okay for everyone? Okay, perfect, awesome. All right, so just a quick overview, and I'll hope to give a lot of pictures and descriptions since you're not with us in person on campus. I hope this is kind of as visual as it can be through this webinar. So the Office of Professional Practice, we also refer to as OPP, but we'll do a lot of work integrated learning, introduce students to industry connections, hands-on learning, and really, I know all of you are admitted to Purdue, which is exciting. In Indianapolis, the focus really starts day one. And so that's kind of really what we pride ourselves to do, that we introduce you to a lot of these resources and services basically the first day you step foot on campus. So OPP sometimes is also kind of known as the co-op office. So we do more than co-ops. We do internships, we do certificates, we teach classes, but it's a lot of things that students experience during their time they're in college or on campus. So we really focus on this academic experience with a focus on the industry readiness or career readiness. So in Indianapolis, as I mentioned, we have a few of the TAs here present tonight, but we have a couple more, and so they're part of our class that we teach that I'll talk a little bit more about here in a moment. And then as the topic for tonight's presentation, is industry, and we have many employers, not just in the state of Indiana, but really in the US, but worldwide. So we'll talk a little bit more about that and how students connect with those industry professionals. There's also co-op coordinators. As I said, co-op is sort of the bread and butter, and that's really what OPP initially became known for. Currently, we're ranked number 6 in the nation, so it definitely speaks to the rigor of the program. But we do have co-op coordinators since students enroll in our 0 credit courses, which provides them an opportunity to get the experience recorded on their transcript, but also have a record of each of the different rotations. And again, I'll talk a little bit more in depth on what sort of the structure of our co-ops look like. All right. It looks like that moved on. As I said, the office that I work in is in Indianapolis, and you can see sort of the outside view of the building that I'm in. I'm actually right next to the new academic success building that is currently built on our campus, which is exciting to see. So I'm right next to that building that Purdue students will have access to in 27. So you can see some of the spaces. As I said, the RTAs are a really core part of our office and our group. And so you can see them on the bottom left corner. They hold office hours. And so this is just a little shot that I took of them while they were sort of waiting for students to come in for an appointment. We do have some other spaces, as you can see in the other pictures, and we usually do like an end of the semester gathering for students and TAs. And so that's kind of taken there. And this building is a rather large building on campus, and I want to mention that there's other career entities in that space. So we call it our Career and Experience Collaboration Hub. So that's all in the STT building. So besides OPP, you can also find the Center for Career Opportunities there, the Office of Experiential Education, and then resources for our international students and scholars. So just to kind of give you an idea, OPP doesn't work in a silo. We collaborate a lot with our partners in the CCO, especially since we're kind of having shared fairs, career networking sessions. So there's quite a bit collaboration going on. And I think, again, this sort of hub, as you will, is kind of a neat, very unique opportunity for students to have everything sort of under one roof in Indianapolis. Since our campus is a little smaller in nature, we kind of wanted to make sure that students have access all in one spot. So that's kind of why I wanted to make sure that you know that we're not working in silo. There's other partners that we work with in order to come up with events, create opportunities for students, especially when it comes to our industry partners or alums when they're returning to campus. So a little bit more specifically, here's an overview of all the programs that OPP has. So we have domestic and global opportunities. So a lot of them I will touch a little bit more on here as we go a little bit more in depth. As I mentioned, we have several courses. The co-op program is one big item that we like to highlight. But there's other opportunities for students like learning while working, interns for Indiana, some certificate programs that we offer. And I'll go a little bit more in depth and cover sort of more details on all of those. The GEARE program is one of our global opportunities that is rather impressive. And again, it's a sort of a stamp of approval if you complete multiple different items that you can participate in. It's widely recognized. And then we'll talk a little bit more about some of the certificates and some of the then study abroad or just opportunities to travel even within the US, like Silicon Valley. We have that in, over the spring semester. All right, a little bit more in depth. So in Indianapolis, it's really unique that students really get exposed to some of those career resources through our Intro to Professional Practice course. It's a 1 credit hour seminar. It meets once a week for 50 minutes, and students take it during their freshman year. Of course, students are directly admitted into their major, which is definitely a great benefit, and hopefully more students have already a little bit of a sense of maybe what they're interested in doing career-wise. So we kind of meet them during the freshman year, and it's great to build those relationships with students, see them grow, see them getting internships, co-ops, and even growing socially and sort of professionally. It's really nice to kind of build those relationships day one. because we see everyone. I'm the main instructor of this course, so if you are joining us in the fall, hopefully I see you then, or in the spring semester. But the course is mostly taught by me, so will be exciting to see you in the course. So things that get covered in the course, as I said, it's sort of like a course that introduces you to industry. One of the main things where we have our TAs for, so students complete a resume, and that's the first resume. Sometimes you maybe already have one, but we'll make sure it follows the Purdue template that we provide students, and then our TAs give feedback. And so then at the end of the semester, the students will submit their final resume. So hopefully the feedback helped to kind of really highlight many of the different things maybe they have already done. Maybe some students have done things in high school already, but we'll really provide feedback to the students to help them craft like their resume and be ready. And so the resume topic is covered usually really early on, because many of the career fairs, such as the Industrial Roundtable or the local career fair in Indianapolis, take place early in the semester, usually September, October. So it's important to kind of have a resume ready to go. And kind of talk to employers, talk to companies, and just get that experience. We don't have necessarily the expectation of students all landing like an internship or over the first year. It can happen, which is amazing, but it's just kind of perfecting that skill set of practicing an elevator pitch, talking about the experience from your resume, having it so you can actually hand it out to companies. So we want to make sure students are ready right away. Also, building a LinkedIn profile is part of it, so that way students can connect with some of the alums and industry professionals they meet at some of those events. So those are a couple of the key items that we focus on in the class, sort of some of those skills. Also, students create a professional development plan that helps them hopefully thinking about their goals, and then also helps them accountable of what they wanted to achieve in their first semester. But we hope students review that plan as they go through the remaining 3 years after that. As I said, our TAs are a pretty critical part of the class, because they provide feedback from any of the assignments, but also they're really a great mentor and resource to the students, because our TAs have had internships, co-op, or research experiences. So the idea is that they become more of a mentor, an older student that can coach students through the process of getting an internship, getting a co-op, how to even interact with industry professionals, how to go about networking, those kind of items. So those are a couple of the things that sort of, as far as like building like the skill set goes. The class is also highly focused on bringing in industry speakers and alum. And you can see like a couple of the names, and I have a couple more slides just with pictures to kind of show who we maybe recently had in our classes visit. And so I'll skip to the next slide, but as you can see down here under the picture, there's a couple that have now repeatedly come visit. So I'll go to the next slide to show you a little bit more what that looks like. So I'm not sure how well you can see it on your screens, but I'll just go around and just quickly highlight who all came visit. So during the spring and fall, we had our alums from one alum is at Lilly right now. He's an engineer there. We had a test of a design engineer from Delara. So that's kind of where you see maybe a blue screen. So all of them are alums. And then we had an engineer and someone on the management side from Marathon, and another engineer who's now at Air McLaren. So these were all speakers. Either we host them in class, but sometimes those opportunities extend out after class or on a different day. So it could be information sessions that are not just happening in the class, but also on different events, depending on what the companies or industry's professional schedules are. Then the next slide talks a little bit more about some of those additional events that we have hosted. So in the fall semester, we've hosted our first our first year career networking night. So you can see that on the top photo there. And so we had 23 industry professionals, most of them were Purdue Engineering alums, come to campus and network with the first year students. Again, the idea is by introducing first year students to an industry professional to learn about, what their day-to-day life looks like, hopefully confirm for the student that that is something they're interested in. And it's a little bit more casual than a career fair. So the idea is to just have genuine connections, build relationships with some of those professionals. And you can see we took a little group photo, so you can see that there on the top. As I mentioned, we do collaborate a lot with the CCO, which is the Center for Career Opportunity. So they're, as I said, in the same space as us. And so, for example, they host like a fall and a spring fair. So we do collaborate with them. And if we have industry partners who would like to participate, we share those contacts. But the OPP also hosts its own, like we host our own internship and co-op fair, and that is in January. That's just sort of the timeline for it that works best as far as recruitment for those opportunities. So that is always in January, but then there's opportunities for other career fairs or even the industrial roundtable that students attend in West Lafayette to participate in. A couple other things that we're doing is site visits to local companies. So this spring, we visited a smaller architectural company just 5 minutes down from campus. But other site visits have included Rolls-Royce, Ream, and again, we do partner with some of our other partners and entities in the Career Collaboration Hub, because when we all have the same contact, we kind of we'll group or we advertise the opportunities together so students can participate and sign up for those. You also see, as I said, we do information sessions, networking sessions, workshops, but some of the pictures were also taken from like an information session where we had some of our alums attend the fair, the career fair, and then following they did an information session. So you see that we had 2 alums from Cummins come and talk to the students and network. As I mentioned, the co-op program is sort of the thing that OPP is known for, but there are internships as well. And really the difference between a co-op is a more in-depth experience versus an internship. Internships typically take place in the summer, but it doesn't mean they always have to take place in the summer. Co-ops are what Purdue defines it as is we have an industry co-op and we have an extended co-op. The industry co-op is definitely the most popular option because it consists of 3 sessions or rotations, and co-ops are a lot more flexible than maybe used to be back in the day, maybe. So what we see more often in these 3 sessions, that many students maybe start in the summer and do a summer rotation first and then segue into a fall rotation. So they already get like 2 of those 3 mandatory rotations out of the way. Sometimes they could also start in the spring and then do a summer and already get their 2 rotations out of the way. But overall, in order to get the certificate awarded upon graduation, students have to complete 3 rotations. And so 2 of those have to be with the same employer. 1 can be with a different employer. And only 1 of those rotations have to be in the fall or spring in order to get at least 1 semester of really in-depth experience. The other nice thing is co-ops and internships are always paid. And so that's obviously a benefit to get compensated, but also get some real world experience, especially through when students are participating in co-op. Sometimes they get vested, sometimes they get other incentives when they are joining a company full time. So those in-depth opportunities definitely have their own advantages. Internships can be nice because they are more flexible. So definitely pros, cons for each, and really whatever a student fit best in their schedule. It can be made work and obviously has to be coordinated with the employer, but there's lots of opportunities to find what kind of works for you. Then the learning while working model, students receive a co-op certificate upon graduation, and especially in Indianapolis, we're close to many of the companies. I mentioned Rolls-Royce, for example. They're 10 minutes down the road. And so, this model taps into the opportunity that students start in the summer full-time and then work during the academic year part-time, or we say 10 hours a week. So it really lets you work while also taking classes and kind of continue that relationship with the company. Students would have to do that basically 2 times, so 4 semesters in the fall and spring, and then 2 summers in order to sort of get like the accumulative experience of a co-op. So but it's definitely something that I think students have been doing for a long time because of the proximity to many of the companies in Indianapolis, and it's very doable. We even have some partners. Caterpillar is located in West Lafayette, and students are participating in this model right now. And so the students, I think they may have to go up to West Lafayette to Caterpillar once a week, but then have some remote options during the fall and spring. And again, the summer is full time. The Interns for Indiana programs, those are opportunities with local startups, and I have another slide so I can showcase that a little bit more. Those are a little bit of numbers here. They may have even changed. I think this is not quite the most recent information, but there are over 400 plus employer partners. And I think the value there, especially highlighting the co-op, is that students have a great experience at their co-ops, and also are interested in returning back to their co-op employer. So building these long-term relationships can definitely be of an advantage in that process. As I mentioned, Interns for Indiana is another program that focuses on startups locally in Indiana. Many of them are in Indianapolis, and maybe if you're not familiar with the local area, there's an area we call 16 Tech. It's about 10 minutes away from campus. It's like a tech hub. Many or several of the startups are actually located there and have a space. So this is a great experience for a student that maybe later want to run their own business, or maybe even their own startup, to kind of see sort of everything firsthand. Many of these startups may have only a few employers or employees, and so it's really great for a student to kind of see everything that goes into running a startup, sort of from start to finish. And so these are a couple companies listed here. Again, many of them are in Indianapolis, and students have the opportunity to participate in those. As I mentioned, there are some global opportunities as well. So the GEARE program is one of those. So I think many of you might be familiar sort of with what an honors college means. So the GEARE program is similar. It's like an extra, certification, an extra credential by completing several different items. So for example, students have a language requirement if they are interested in GEARE. In Indianapolis, German is the language requirement right now, because the GEARE program started in Germany, and there's many companies that are our partners and universities that are partners with OPP. So that's why currently German is offered in sync with the GEARE program for like a foreign language requirement, and those and that language is also offered in person in Indianapolis. So other pieces of the GEARE program are that students besides completing a language, they also study abroad and also have an internship abroad and domestically. So those are pieces that are part of the GEARE program. There's also courses that help students prepare before they go on their experience abroad, during their experience, and then after. So for example, right now I'm teaching a course with students who are currently studying in France. And so we have a live session every month. And so we're checking in with students, seeing how things are going with them, and talk to them about their experience to kind of reflect on some of the cultural experiences they have while abroad. So that's definitely, if you're interested in those global pieces and you want to do a little bit more than just studying abroad on your own, having a work experience, having the language, this requires a little bit more planning. And so we always want to make sure students know of this, because students can really only apply in their freshman year to this program. So that's why it's important to know at least that this exists if you're interested. And then, as I mentioned, there's some other program certificates that we run through our office. So, for example, the Silicon Valley and tech industry, it's a course, but also primarily a spring break trip to see many of these companies that are here on the slide. Right now, or in past years, I think there were 20 students going. This year, there's 30 students going, and I believe the idea is that next year 40 students are going. So there's a lot of interest in students going to see these companies and go to Silicon Valley. So if you're from that area, that's amazing. But yes, so this is definitely a program that has been growing and has received a lot of interest. If you are, let's say in BME, maybe an additional focus on farmer careers can be added to any of the skills that you're, sort of accumulating. So this is another course that OPP offers, and it's similar to our 103 course, but focused on the pharma industry. And you can see some of the companies listed there, but the main idea is also to introduce students to that industry through speakers and sort of tailored content there. So if that's something you're interested in, the program also offers an opportunity to go to Ireland. So I believe they visit Lilly, which is also located in Indianapolis. So there's a way to sort of draw those comparisons and kind of see then the company in a different country. The Changing the World with Chips course, that's focused on our semiconductor, it's a part of our semiconductor certificate. So oftentimes students who are maybe in ECE find this particular interesting. Again, similar to the farmer certificate, you see like an overview of some of the companies and speakers that are brought in. But again, it's kind of to introduce you early on to this industry, so you know if this is maybe an industry that you want to dive into. I noticed a couple of the companies. So for example, Lamb Research, they visited campus and did an information session with our students, and then ASML, they visited West Lafayette one day, and then Indianapolis. So we're trying to make sure that when the companies are coming and flying to Indianapolis, that they're also making a stop and going to West Lafayette at the same time. So we're kind of coordinating those efforts. And then I believe this is, I think, probably my last slide already. So in the Office of Professional Practice, we also have our own student organization. And so they operate independently from the one in West Lafayette. So there's collaboration between the two, but we host our own events, and Connor and Matthew, who are both here on the panel, also are part of it. Connor is our president, and then Matthew is the treasurer. And so this year, both of them started out and have been really influential in getting us on a good start here, and have we hosted our first year career networking night, and PPA hosted the industry alums ahead of the official networking event to provide another opportunity for their members to network with those industry professionals. And then another event, and Connor and Matthew, you guys can talk a little bit more in depth if you'd like. They hosted an alumni panel with engineers from Eli Lilly. This was recently, so we're trying to kind of add different events and opportunities through our student org. Yeah, the student org is basically, it's an extension out of the office as far as facilitating some of those mentorship, volunteering, social components. But it's a great way to get some more leadership experience and continue to stay connected with the office through the student org, and not just as a TA. And yeah, this is my last slide with my contact information and the location of the office and our website. So I'll stop sharing my screen, if that's okay, Marilyn. And
Sure. Okay.
yeah, let's see if
Thank
there's
you,
any
Katrine.
questions.
for all that good information and all the wonderful things that OPP is doing and the campus is doing to connect students with industry. We do have questions coming in, but before we get to those, I want to have the student panelists introduce themselves and maybe a little bit about what you've experienced internship co-op wise, especially. Lexi, can I start with you and then go to Connor and then to Matthew? Does that work?
Yes, that's great. So my name is Lexi Weininger. I'm a senior in biomedical engineering here at Purdue Indy. And my industry experience that I did a year-long co-op at Cook Research Incorporated, which is a subsidiary of Cook Medical. And my role was as a test bench engineer.
Hello, I'm Connor. I'm a junior mechanical engineering student, and my internship last summer was with F.A. Wilhelm Construction, and I was a project engineer. And then next summer I'll be with Musset Nicholas Associates as a mechanical design engineer.
And I'm Matthew Cannon. I'm a junior in the motorsports engineering program, which is unique to this campus. And last summer, I did a internship at Blueprint Engines as a manufacturing engineer. And I also did a short-term study abroad in Italy.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to get to the first question. And Katrine, I'll have it start with you and then we can go from there. The question is, do students ever turn their co-op experiences into full-time jobs after graduating?
Yeah, I think that's actually very common because sometimes we refer to as a long-term interview. So the student is interviewing the company, but also the company is interviewing the student. So hopefully it's a good fit. And so I think, maybe Lexi can speak to it after how her experience maybe defined maybe what she's interested in doing after graduation. But I do think having that more in-depth experience is definitely helpful to kind of find out if the company is a good fit. And oftentimes students do get offers, but sometimes students may also turn down an offer because maybe there's other opportunities they have because another company may see how valuable they have been to their company. So I definitely would say it's very likely that students will end up with a full-time offer upon completing those rotations. But again, it's not something that's contracted or agreed upon. It's just finding the right fit and through a long-term experience that's more likely to contribute to that opportunity.
Lexi, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I did a year-long co-op and I finished up in December, and I'm actually in the interview process now with my old team for a full-time position there that would pretty much start immediately once I'm graduated. So I had to still apply and everything like that, but they got back to me like quicker than anyone else did, and my interview process has been pretty relaxed because the team knows me really well and they've already given me a lot of feedback. So it's definitely also helpful in like knowing what roles are open on the team, because when I applied for this role, like I pretty much knew exactly what they were wanting and like what like my responsibilities would likely be.
That makes perfect sense. It's always nice to be relaxed in an interview, isn't it? Okay, the next question for the students, so we can do round robin again. Why did you choose the company location and what did your day look like as an intern or co-op student? So do you want to talk to us a little bit about that? How did you choose where you went? Did you have other offers? Was this your single offer, that kind of thing? And Connor, we'll start with you and then Matthew and then Lexi, okay?
So yeah, last summer I was with F.A. Wilhelm Construction, and I was stationed in Indianapolis, very close to campus. I like Indy. I grew up like an hour and a half from here, so I'm just familiar with the area, and I preferred to stay here. And the industry I chose was construction because my father works in construction, and so it's what I've always known. So that's the reason that I chose those two. As an intern, pretty much I would come in. First thing I would do is check the emails for the day, and then get a plan ready for what I need to ask during the morning meeting. We would always have an 8 a.m. Teams meeting with everybody, and so get my questions together, and then we'd have that meeting, and then go from there, doing tasks, checking in with supervisors, that sort of thing.
So for me, I was at Blueprint Engines out in central Nebraska, which was sort of familiar as I'm from Wisconsin, so it's kind of Midwest feel still, but it was also very different, very much like small town, very slowed down life, which is kind of relaxing for the summer, kind of a break from all the school classes and everything. And my day to day was I was a manufacturing engineer, so my day to day was kind of always different depending on what was going on out in the production lines. But it mainly consisted of dealing with any sort of safety issues or any ongoing projects we were having to improve the flow of the engines that we were making through the assembly lines, and then generally just improve the abilities of the people working on the assembly lines and address any problems that were coming up with them.
So I chose my company because they're who I talked to at Industrial Roundtable, and it was located in West Lafayette. And at the time when I chose it, I did have another offer for an internship from a different medical device company, but I ended up going with the co-op because the test bench role was a lot more aligned with what I was interested in, and also it was a year-long experience, which for me like seemed like a lot better of an opportunity to be able to just really immerse myself in industry that way. And then my day to day, most of the time I'd come in the morning and I would do any desk work I had. So because I was a test engineer, we did a lot of protocol writing, writing up reports, doing data analysis, and sometimes even some CAD work to make some test fixtures. And then I would go into my afternoons with any sort of testing I was doing. I worked specifically with like minimally invasive medical devices. So we did a lot of mechanical testing and imaging testing. And then once I'd wrap that up, I'd normally just plan for my next day. Something to know, since it was in West Lafayette, I spent half my time living up there and I spent half my time commuting from Indy. And it was neat to be able to have that opportunity because I also got to kind of get a taste of both Purdue campuses.
Thank you, all of you. Okay, the next question, and I think this is probably for you, Matthew, because you mentioned study abroad. What experience did you have with studying abroad, and how did that affect your internship experience, or did it, affect your internship experience?
So with the second part of the question, the company that I went to was very understanding of that, and I already was confirmed to go on the trip when I was interviewing, so that was already all kind of cleared away. So that's just like down to having a conversation with them in the interview process and see what it looks like. And it's nice with most of the short-term study abroads are done in May, like a week or so after school's done. So you are able to do one of those and usually complete a regular internship over the summer because you'll have June, July, and then most of August to get in the 10 to 12 weeks or so that a lot of companies do. And then my experience was really good. We networked with, we went to 4 different universities in Italy, in the northern part of Italy. And then we went to a bunch of different companies, some bigger names like Dallara, Brembo, even Barilla, the pasta manufacturer. And so we got a lot of different industry experience over there. And we got to see how things are very similar to here in the US, but there's also a lot of differences. And it was fun just getting to network with other Purdue students from both campuses, professors from both campuses, professors from the Italian campuses we were on, and generally just explore a completely different culture. I think that was my first time going to Europe, let alone Italy, so it was a good opportunity to get that experience without having to do a lot of my own planning work and all of that. It was kind of relaxing to just be able to pay for the class, and it's a 3 credit class as well for me. So that checked off one of my tech electives, and then I was able to just go and experience the program, get all these cool networking opportunities and cultural experiences.
Sounds awesome. Especially the pasta making place, right? Okay. The next question And again, this is for all the students. What did the process of attaining an internship look like for you? And I know you talked about this a little, but maybe a little bit more about from, step one. What does it look like? Lexi, Connor, and then Matthew.
So for me, I feel like it kind of started to start at college. So just kind of getting involved on campus and getting into research and things that would build my resume. And then after that, it was just a lot of attending job fairs and trying to make industry connections, because I found through my application process, knowing somebody and having them be able to refer me for a position was super helpful in getting interviews. The biggest tool I think I used was actually Industrial Roundtable. Pretty much any interview I ever got was because I went to Industrial Roundtable and talked to different people, and then they would push my interview through. For my co-op that I did specifically, that one I just went up to their tent, and then I talked to one person at the tent. They were really interested in what I had on my resume for my research and some of my class projects. And then that same day they signed me up for an interview, and I came back the next day to do the interview in person. So that's kind of what my process looked like. And some of the other ones where I got interviews, it was a lot of just getting onto LinkedIn and applying to jobs or talking to my connections and seeing if anyone knew of anything that might be a good fit for me.
Lexi, and before I turn this back over to Connor, can you explain what the Industrial Roundtable is? There might be some folks in the audience who aren't aware.
Yeah, so Industrial Roundtable is a massive job fair that happens up in West Lafayette every fall. They have this big open outdoor space, and I don't even know the number of companies that come, but it's a lot. And you pretty much just spend the whole day going up to different companies and talking to them. And some companies also have like scheduled interviews and things like that you can sign up for. They have pretty much everything for every industry. Like I'm in med, so there's a lot of medical device companies, and it's just a really, really great way.
Thank you. Okay, Connor, you want to talk about what it's like, the process of getting an internship?
So the two internships, the one I had last summer, the one I will have this summer, were two different processes. Last summer, it was through a personal connection, and they got me an interview with the hiring manager at the company. And so I went to that interview and was attentive, had questions to ask, showed how I was interested, and it was a connection. So after the first interview, we went for a second round of interview, and then eventually they offered me a position with the company. This year, I went through the Indianapolis Career Fair. So in the fall, there's a big Indianapolis Career Fair with a bunch of companies. And I went, talked to them, gave them my resume, introduced myself. And then we had 2 rounds of interviews again. And after that led to an offer letter with the company.
And then for me, it was all done through networking on my own. Katrine talked about the 103 class, and the making a LinkedIn profile is one of the big assignments for that. And that was a big part of how I got my internship. I ended up connecting with a few different people who run different organizations and companies local to here, involved in motorsports. And then that ended up giving me mutual connections to the CEO and founder of the company that I worked for. So I just randomly connected with him. He reached out and we had a little conversation, and then he connected me with the people in his company that were eventually able to get me hired there and trained and everything. So it's really just building that connection in school is probably one of the most important things that you'll do here, besides, of course, just doing the classes and everything. And using that connections, all the connections that you build using that network was super important, and it was the way that I found the opportunity.
So Matthew, I think what you're saying is you did the networking on your own, but a lot of those connections were made through Purdue and 103, your 103 class, or your instructors, your faculty, that kind of thing. Am I understanding correctly?
Yeah, so the 103 class was a big help in getting that process rolling, I think, like getting LinkedIn and like the do's and don'ts of a LinkedIn profile, and then teaching about networking. And even the motorsports program itself, they stressed a lot about networking and going out and connecting with as many people as you can. And then because we're downtown here, we have the PRI show, which is a big motorsports industry show every December. And I was able to connect with people there. And that's how I kind of got to know this company. And I've always been aware of them because they were kind of involved in motorsports and that sort of thing. So I kind of knew about them already, went to the show, talked to a few people there, and then through some of those connections, ended up connecting with the CEO and then connected with his engineering staff. And I only went through one round of virtual interviews before getting an offer letter.
I love these stories. They're all so good. Okay, so Lexi, I'm going to start with you. What was your favorite memory from your internship or co-op experience? And then Connor and Matthew, you've got a little bit of time to think about this, but so I'm putting you on the spot first, Lexi.
Some of my favorite memories from my internship experience is actually, or co-op experience, isn't actually like in the lab or anything like that. My team every like quarter would go and do something together. And this past fall, we had a big picnic one day and we all went out to a park and we grilled out and we played kickball for like 4 hours. And it was just really fun because a lot of my time I spent working with the full times, but also I spent a lot of time working with the other co-ops. So it was just a great way to be able to like build stronger connections with the full times on my team, kind of just like learn about everybody, but it was a really fun.
In my experience, I'll give one that's in the workplace and one that's personal. So first in the workplace, one of the first tasks I was assigned throughout the summer was we were essentially installing a racking system for a drug that a pharmaceutical company was, we're building the manufacturing facility for that pharmaceutical company. And so while this racking system was being built, I was in charge of tracking the progress of it. Insulated metal panels were being installed all throughout it because the drugs have to be kept at a certain temperature. And so it was my responsibility to create some type of chart or some type of diagram showing what was done, what needs to be done, and a timeline for it. And that ended up getting used in a company with some of the higher ups at the company that we were working for. And so it was cool to see that my work ended up being used for an important meeting. And then the personal one of our coworkers ended up getting a promotion to another job site and ended up running it. So we went out to Ale Emporium in Greenwood and went to go eat as a team, and it was just a fun time. So
I also have two in that same kind of form. I think the professional one I really enjoyed when we had certain problems or projects that we were working on out in the shop floor that we got to spend time talking to some of the maintenance guys and some of the machinists that were there that have been there for decades. And it was really cool to get to talk to them and kind of absorb a little bit of that knowledge that they've gained over all those years. Especially as someone who's I was just finishing my sophomore year at the time, so it was kind of nice to try to soak up some of that real world practical knowledge that they had. And then the more fun memory was we have maybe 20 to 30 engineers there, all kind of grouped into a few different groups. And the all the manufacturing engineering team that I was on, we do like pizza parties and various kind of get-togethers like that, hang out for an hour or two, celebrate someone's birthday or something like that. And it was kind of just fun because you get to kind of know the people that you're working with a little bit more than just like they're just this engineer that I happen to work with. You kind of know them personally, you tell stories and all that, so that was enjoyable.
Okay, so I think again, this is for the students. And the question is about how did the Office of Professional Practice support you, like either before, during, or after the experience? And so, Connor, let's start with you, and then Lexi, and then Matthew.
yeah, so I'll give two examples of ways I was supported. So last year I was given 2 offer letters at 2 different companies, and I was really struggling with deciding which company I wanted to accept. And so I went in and talked with the Office of Professional Practice, and they helped me weigh the options between the 2 companies and figure out which one I wanted to go with, and as well as finding a way to break the news to the company that I didn't go with, and how to not burn bridges there, and how to make it professional. And that company that I turned down last summer, I'm actually going to go to this summer to try a different side of the experience. So it was a success story there because I got to eventually do both. And yeah, that was a good time. So
So for me, kind of at the start of the experience, I was in my senior year when I got my co-op offer, so I only had like a semester left. So they kind of helped me navigate like how to go about accepting that offer and like planning how I'm going to finish out graduation, and like stay in good standing with the university. And that's what during my actual experience, they did a lot with trying, like making sure I was still like enrolled and up to date on the things I needed to be up to date on for the university. And I did my senior capstone while I was also doing my co-op. So just kind of helping like direct me in the right direction for questions. And then after the experience, I'm just now getting into the after the experience, but like this is one opportunity that the office has allowed me to participate in, and it's been kind of fun just to share the experience with the people.
For me, I would say they were really helpful while I was on campus during the semesters. You're able to network at career fairs or various, like we have the networking night. Doing things like that is really good because you're not scared of going into conversations with your team members when you're in the experience, or even like when you're interviewing, that you have a lot more experience communicating with people in a professional setting that you're not really super familiar with. And then while I was in the experience, I was in a 0 credit hour class that the Office of Professional Practice offers, and it was really helpful setting one of the requirements is to set a goal or a couple of goals of what you want to get out of your experience. And doing that was really helpful because it kind of gave me something to focus on. At the company I was at, their internship program is way less structured than some companies, so that it's a little more, you have the freedom to kind of work on what you want to work on. And so for me, having those goals was really helpful to kind of narrow down a few things, a few objectives that I could complete over the summer.
Great. I think those were all awesome examples. Katrine, I think you're finally going to get to talk here. The question is, does the university have any particular partnerships that are beneficial to students? So do you just kind of want to talk about some of the partnerships and things that are going on that are, are helpful?
Yeah, I kind of expand a little bit. I don't know if it refers specifically to industry connections or companies. So as I mentioned, we're our own office. We're in Indianapolis, but we have an office in West Lafayette. And so this office has been in longer existence. And so many of the companies, as I mentioned, we had ASML, Lam Research, Tesla on campus, because those were already partners within the Office of Professional Practice, and because of our close proximity to the international airport, it's kind of easy for them to make a stop now in Indianapolis. So that has been really a great benefit, I think, to our location. And the feedback from some of the companies has been that due to the smaller class sizes or information sessions, they're really getting to know the students one-on-one. So in one information session, one of the alum slash engineer found out that one of our students were from the same hometown that they were, and in even at a large career fair, those might be things or opportunities that may be missed. So afterwards, the company, they were like, I usually don't give out my personal email, but I broke a rule. I did this because of this individual connection that they made in the conversation they had. So I think that was like pretty eye-opening to me. And then, as I said, like we had Tesla on campus, I think every semester now. So, having the same large companies as would attend the West Lafayette for coming to Indianapolis. The other benefit that I think many of the companies see in the Indianapolis location, and specifically direct admission into the program, is that students are really well aware of the major that they're wanting to go into. And many of the students, from now having taught our Intro to Professional Practice course, have lots of experience already. And we just have to find a way to kind of really put that on their resume. But we have had many freshmen who land internships and co-ops because the company already know that they're in their program, program. They don't have to apply to get in the program. They know what they're studying, and they may already have experiences. So, and present themselves in a mature manner, in a professional way that sets them apart. And maybe the company may not even know that they're a freshman starting out because of the way they present and the resources that they already have aligned to kind of make those connections. So I think that's has been kind of fascinating to see that students have the same great opportunities in Indianapolis, a little bit on a smaller scale, but there's definitely benefits to building those connections and having those more individual conversations with people.
I love that, Katrine. And I love the fact that, you point out that the direct admission status sometimes is beneficial too, because the students are already in their major. Okay, we're getting
And we
close on
still do a
time.
little bit of exploration, I guess, in the interprofessional practice course. So it still helps students if they are in mechanical engineering to learn about the different fields within mechanical engineering. So there's still a little exploration within that, but I do think it is very beneficial to know, at least to have a starting point in your degree journey.
Okay, great. Thank you for pointing that out. We are down to 5 minutes, so I think we've got time for just a couple more questions, and this one, Katrina, I'm going to give to you, and then we'll have one more that's for all the students, okay? And you talked about this a little bit in your presentation, but the question is, can students work for multiple companies during different co-op rotations, or are they expected to stay with the same employer?
So what maybe initially the understanding is with the company that a student will complete 3 rotations. We all know things may happen, or maybe the company isn't a good fit. So in order to earn the certificate, students have to complete 2 rotations with the same company just for that in-depth experience. But again, let's say a student completed 1 rotation and they didn't find this to be a good fit. If it's after the first one, they still have 2 rotations left, and then hopefully those can be with a company that is a better fit. Also, I want to point out that as Matthew and Connor were sharing their experience about internships, students can start in an internship and then apply that internship experience towards the co-op certificate program. So, for example, a student could start in the summer, really enjoy the company, and it's, again, a mutual sort of agreement that the student maybe then get offered to return back for another rotation, maybe in the fall or sometimes in the spring. So then the student can apply that experience towards the certificate. So again, there's quite a bit of flexibility within the co-op program. And I do think a lot of these co-op employers are vetted. They're long partners with the university. And I think overall the student experience has been great. And Matthew mentioned there are course assignments, very minimal, but reflection pieces, feedback. And so if we were to find out that maybe students continuously didn't have a good experience with an employer, that would definitely be something we would kind of want to look into and kind of maybe see if maybe there could be improvements made, or maybe having a conversation with the employer. I think that the best co-op programs have like mentoring opportunities where an older engineer in the industry or in that company mentors the younger students coming in and having like a direct rapport. And I think everybody mentioned some of those social aspects of really feel like part of the team. So I think that's kind of what often makes it a great experience for the students.
Okay, and I'm gonna do something weird here because we've got another question that I want to get in, but for the students, I want you to start thinking about the advice that you would give to incoming students, because that's always the last question. But Katrine, there is another question here that it says, in regards to co-op experiences, does it cost the student any additional funds to participate? And if so, how would that be charged to the student?
No, and that's why the courses that the students enroll are 0 credits. So for example, a student who starts their first rotation in the summer, they will not have any additional fees. And that's kind of really, in the past, those were for credit, but that has been eliminated. So there's no barrier why students wouldn't register. Also, Lexi mentioned her experience. Students who are in the program can apply to be co-op or intern of the year, but they have to be enrolled in those courses. So again, there's no additional cost for students enrolling. It's a way for them to get the experience transcribed. and then also be able to really keep track of those experience if they want to go from an internship to a co-op and then get the certificate awarded. Instead of students getting charged for the experience, students make money, and that I think is oftentimes another great benefit for the students. Some students may be applying that directly to paying for their tuition, for example. So yeah, there's no additional cost for participating in a co-op.
Okay, awesome. Okay, we've got 7:59. So quickly, Lexi first, what kind of advice would you give to an incoming student who's hoping to do internships? And then I'll go to Matthew, and then I will go to Connor.
Yeah, so my advice would be get involved in like what you're interested in and start building your resume and really gaining experiences that companies might like leadership experiences or research experiences. And then also when you're in your classes doing your projects, really learn what you're learning and understand your project inside and out and how it could be applied in an industry setting. Because for me, that ended up being a big part of my interview process, is talking about my projects and understanding how to troubleshoot them. So I just said really pay attention and take advantage of every opportunity that you're going to be given, because that'll be really helpful.
I think going off of that, this is the best time you have to network with people that are similar age, similar experiences and interests and all of that. And not just with networking with your peers, but also networking with professors as well. You're going to run into a lot of different people. They're maybe even bringing guest speakers to their classes. So this is like probably the best opportunity you have to grow and expand your network in the 4 to 5 years that you're here for most people. It's hard to come by that many people with that much experience, so take advantage of it while you have the time.
And for my answer, I would say that just have some fun with it. Sometimes school can be stressful. People think all the time about getting internship for the summer, finding a co-op for the summer, or research experience for the school year, thinking about where you're going to work full time once you graduate. And that all is the most important stuff you can think about. But you need to live your life a little, join a student organization, have some fun with it, and relax. It'll all be okay. Well, it'll work out.
Okay, so that wraps up all of our questions. If we didn't get to your question, you can send us an email. I think it will be the OPP address will be put into the chat. And again, I want to thank the panel, Katrine, and mostly the audience for all of you joining us and asking your questions. I wish everybody a good evening. Thank you.